The village in it with a map and a plan. No place too tiny for this determined man. Crossing the counties one by one, you'll see in every English corner a bit of history.
Hello folks, welcome back to Harrogate for the third time this week. Now this one's going to be interesting, very interesting, and the reason for that is all to do with what happened here in 1644. If you've been watching me for a long time, you might already know what happened here in 1644, but for those who don't, let's explain in the parish of Longmast. Marston, Long Marsh Farm. Today in Harrogate we come to a village that's famous for a couple of things, but there's one that stands out more than anything else. This is Longmast. Historically part of the West Riding of Yorkshire, it's situated on the B1224 from Wetherby to York. It includes the hamlets of Hutton Wandesley immediately south of the main village and Angram a further 1.5 miles away. North of the village is the extensive Marston Moor, and in 1644 it's where the biggest and bloodiest battle ever fought on English soil took place. The Battle of Marston Moor was a huge turning point in the Civil War, and it's now commemorated by way of a monument on the Tockwith road which crosses the battlefield. After their defeat, the Royalists effectively abandoned the north of England. They lost much of the manpower from the northern counties, which were strongly Royalist in sympathy, and access to Europe through the ports on the North Sea coast. We'll get to the battle at the end of this episode, but let's not overlook the village itself. Longmast has a pub called the Sun Inn, a church dedicated to All Saints, and until 2008 it had a chapel which closed due to dwindling attendances. It also has a village hall and a sports ground which are located side by side, and it's where the cricket team play in the Wetherby Cricket League. It's so easy to pigeonhole Longmast into the category of a battlefield village, but it has so much more than that. Come with me for a wander along its long main street, hence the name by the way, and we'll learn much more about it than just the Battle of Marston Moor. Longmast really is a long parish. From end to end it stretches for a good few miles, and all three of the settlements along its length are located on one main road. First of all, in the extreme south we have the tiny Angram to see. This is little more than just a collection of houses and a few farm buildings. It's not all that exciting. Mind you, if you possess the surname Horner, this little place might be of interest to you. There were several branches of the Horner family around York, and one of them originated here, in Angram. There used to be a church in Angram too, but there isn't any more. It fell into disuse in the 1400s and was never rebuilt. Well, not here anyway. Stick with me on that one, it'll make more sense in a bit. Let's continue on to Hutton Wandesley. From the Horner family, we're now in a place that was once owned by another prominent local lot, the Yorks. Belonging to the York family for 150 years, Hutton Wandesley is a traditional 3,000-acre rural estate, incorporating arable farming, ancient woodlands, residential lets and offices. The Yorks are descendants of Richard Sheepshanks, he of Linton in Craven. His son Whittle, a prominent Leeds merchant and twice mayor of the town, changed his name to York by royal licence in 1796. Richard York, Whittle's son, married Mary Anne Lascelles, the younger daughter of the first Earl of Harewood. They lived for a short time in Swansea before settling down in Yorkshire, first at Ingmanthorpe and then at Wighill, which the family continued to occupy until 1874. The only child of Richard and Lady Mary York was Edward, who married Penelope, the younger daughter of the Reverend Christopher Sykes, the rector of Roos in Holderness. His son, Edward Christopher York, acquired the Longmast estate in 1874 and built Hutton Wandesley Hall. Also known as Hutton Hall, it became the family seat thereafter. Edward Christopher died in 1885 and was succeeded to the estate by his son, Lieutenant Colonel Edward York, who was in turn succeeded by his son, Christopher, in 1951. Blimey, the landed gentry don't half like passing their names down to their kids. Breathing new life into Hutton Wandesley since taking over the place with her husband, Sasha York has now reimagined this traditional rural estate. Originally from Northumberland, Sasha arrived in 2014. Under her stewardship, the beautiful Victorian stable block has now been renovated into luxury holiday accommodation. Then there's the Botanicum, which is a fancy word meaning event barn. At the heart of the estate now lies the walled garden. Starting its life as the original walled garden to Hutton Wandesley Hall, it served as a working kitchen garden with 12 full-time gardeners tending to it. In the 1990s, it became a nursery garden supplying plants to the local garden centres before being turned into a grazing paddock for horses. After being re-landscaped using the original design drawings from 1874, the garden is made up of 4 aspects, each bringing something special to the space. Okay, so after a drive through those 2 little places, we're now in Longmast village, and our first landmark is the church, which you can see here. This is dedicated to All Saints. It's got a very tall tower, this one. This one's going to be interesting to have a look at with the camera. Let's have a look. Yeah, you see, it's quite a tall tower, that. So let's talk about this first, and then we'll walk off through the village of Longmast and see what else it's got to offer. Our walk around Longmast starts at All Saints Church. This dates from 1180, with much of its fabric, including the main doorway, credited to the Norman period. Sir Nicholas Pevsner described this church in his work as a significant building. I agree. The church is built of cobbles with a limestone plinth and quoins. As a religious site, this began with a simple chapel, but by 1400 both it and the parish church near Angram were in ruins. The new church was built using materials from the church at Angram, and the result is what you see now. All Saints still features its original late Norman arcade and its original windows. The West Tower, which dates from the 15th century, contains 3 bells. Major changes were undertaken by the Victorians in 1869, including the east window entitled Resurrection, which is the work of Hardman. The transept was reordered in 2005 to create a multifunctional room that can be used for meetings, display facilities and educational resources. The church is open regularly for worship and for exhibitions, with a specific theme, usually on the 2nd Saturday of each month between April and October. The most notable monument in the church is that to Jacob Thwaites, dating from 1602. Also in here, there's a stone block with a hollow, which was formerly either a cross base or a font. The pulpit and altar date from the late 19th century. Got a couple of memorials there to some members of the York family, which is kind of what I expected, considering the Hutton Wandesley estate is literally right next door to the church. It's virtually conjoined to it. I was expecting to see something about the Battle of Marston Moor in here, actually, but there isn't anything. I don't think there is, anyway. I've had a good look around and I can't find anything. Doesn't matter, because we're going to be covering that in great detail towards the end of this episode. We're going to head out of the church now and walk through Longmast, and it's called Longmast for a reason. It's got quite a lengthy main street. Now a little further up the street towards the central crossroads, we're looking here at the entrance to Longmast Manor. Now this should not be confused with the manor house at Longmast in Warwickshire. That one is much grander and has a much more interesting history. This one was simply the rectory, and now it's a private house. It's late 18th and early 19th century and was fully restored in 1939. It's made of red brick in Flemish bond, and it has a distinctive purple slate roof. Almost next door is the local primary school. Named Longmast Church of England Voluntary Controlled Primary School, this has a history going back to its original opening in 1875. The vicar of Longmast at the time, William Masters, played a key role in the school's establishment. That probably explains why it's so close to the former rectory. He organised fundraising events to gather monies to open the school, and his efforts were eventually successful. He even had enough money, gathered primarily from the local parishioners, to buy a school bell, which of course not all of them have. The school is currently part of the TIG Federation, which is a group of 3 schools, those at Kirkhamerton, Staveley and of course Longmaston. Okay, so Longmaston isn't just about this one long main street through the place. There are some side streets that come off in both directions. This one here will take you to the village hall. That's going to be our end point, actually. We're going to come out of this later and then head back up towards the church to finish off. I'll tell you another street that's important to this village as well, and that's the one that crosses this main road. At the crossroads, there's a few landmarks we need to talk about. Now we're at the central crossroads where the York to Wetherby road meets the one from Angram to Tockwith. To the right of the crossroads in the direction of York is the Sun Inn. This provides us with our first link so far to the Battle of Marston Moor. This historic pub has a close connection with the war because Oliver Cromwell is known to have visited the building. Inside, it has a Civil War themed interior. The pub was closed in 2021 but has recently reopened after a refurbishment. Today it's owned and operated by Samuel Smith's Old Brewery in Tadcaster. In typical Sam Smith's fashion, it upholds a series of traditional, uncompromisingly Victorian aesthetics, and there are policies in place that reflect this, such as the banning of music, televisions and mobile phones. So aside from the pub, the other landmark which is close to the crossroads, albeit on the other side of Hall Farm Court, which you've just seen there, is this building here. Now this has a massive link to the Battle of Marston Moor. Let's talk about it. This is Longmaston Hall, which dates back to the late 16th century. It's had a raft of extensions and alterations since then though. It's believed that this served as the headquarters for Oliver Cromwell during the Battle of Marston Moor. The hall has been home to various families, including the Thwaites and the Thompsons, the latter being wealthy York merchants. Longmast Manor was also held by the Thwaites family in the early 17th century. Without question, this is a landmark property in not just Longmaston, but in all of Yorkshire. Within the hall can be found extensive oak panelling, which is thought to predate the original building. There's also a fine Jacobean staircase. One has to wonder, what did this look like in Oliver Cromwell's time? Now, the rest of the village between here and the fringes of Marston Moor is entirely residential. From here, the road runs off to the north and will be forming a neat loop by way of a long footpath which runs around the back of the main street. The only things we have left to see on foot are on the way back, close to the crossroads. That means you're going to get a short montage of what's left. See you shortly. Okay, it's that time of year now where footpaths tend to get very overgrown because the sun's up and we've had a rainy season, and this one has definitely got a little bit too overgrown. I just have to wade through that series of nettles. Unbelievable. It was sort of the last couple of meters of the route, maybe about 10 or 15 meters of the route along that footpath. Yeah, not good, not good. Anyway, we're back on the road, and we've got effectively one main area left to have a look at here in Longmast village. Our final two landmarks on the walk are bang next door to each other to the south and west of the central crossroads. These are the village hall and the sports ground. Longmast Village Hall opened in May 1985. It comprises a large main hall, a lounge, a fully fitted kitchen, some changing rooms and a bar facility, and it has a large outdoor sports field next door with cricket and football pitches. Longmast is kind of a cricketing institution actually, because it has a well-renowned club. Although there was a cricket club in the village as early as 1900, little is known about the early years of its existence. It's known though that in those days all the players lived in the village and few, if any, received any coaching. Most able-bodied men played as there was no other attractions. A ladies' team existed as well until the mid-1950s. Today, despite the village having doubled in size since the 1950s, most of the players don't live in it. The club played on several fields until 1946 when it found their first permanent home on the York Road. There were no toilet facilities and the outfield was usually long grass, and low scores and good bowling figures were normal. Since 1966, the club have played here, and the village hall now doubles as their clubhouse. The first 11 won the Senior Division Championship and the Senior Evening Cup in its first season in the Wetherby District League in 1946. It won the League Championship again in 1948 and the Senior Evening Cup again in 1954. In 2008, the club staged a representative match against an Old England 11. And so effectively from there, it's just a simple case of walking back up to the church. I'm alongside the manor here. This is the outer wall of the manor. Can't really see much of that house earlier, could we? But there we go. Now, we aren't finished with this by a long chalk, because now we're going to hop in the car and drive on to Marston Moor, and of course we'll go and see the memorial to the Battle of Marston Moor, and we'll cover the battle in a lot of detail, and hopefully all of this makes sense to you. On the road out of Longmast towards Tockwith, there's a tall column on the edge of a field. This is a memorial to the bloodiest battle fought during the English Civil War, the Battle of Marston Moor. It took place on the 2nd of July 1644. The combined forces of the Parliamentarians under Lord Fairfax and the Earl of Manchester, and the Scottish Covenanters under the Earl of Leven, defeated the Royalists, commanded by Prince Rupert of the Rhine and the Marquess of Newcastle. After their defeats, the Royalists effectively abandoned northern England. They lost much of their manpower from the northern counties of England, which were strongly Royalist in sympathy, and they also lost access to the European continent through the ports on the North Sea coast. Although they partially retrieved their fortunes with victories later in the year in southern England, the loss of the north was to prove a fatal handicap. The battle is widely regarded as one of the key turning points in the Civil War, and is also among the most famous. The monument commemorating the battle stands in front of Marston Hill, crowned by a clump of trees known as Cromwell's Plump. That was reputedly the site of the Parliamentarian and Covenanter headquarters. Now, I've already made a little video about this memorial, so there's no need to cover that again. What we will do, though, is tell the story of the battle. During the summer of 1644, the Covenanters and Parliamentarians had been besieging York, which was defended by the Marquess of Newcastle. Prince Rupert had gathered an army which marched through the northwest of England, gathering reinforcements and fresh recruits on the way and across the Pennines to relieve the city. The convergence of these forces made the ensuing battle huge. In fact, it was to be the largest and bloodiest ever fought on English soil. On the 2nd of July, Rupert sought battle with the Parliamentarians, even though he was outnumbered. Both sides gathered their full strength on Marston Moor, an expanse of wild meadow to the west of York. However, Newcastle and his Lieutenant General Lord Ethin were opposed to any pitched battle and were possibly offended by Rupert's high-handed attitude. Newcastle's soldiers in York refused to fight unless given a delayed payment, so any battle seemed unlikely anyway. Without Newcastle's infantry, Rupert was unable to attack. Delayed by the late arrival of the York garrison, it was the evening before the Royalists were fully armed. A flurry of rain showers and the discouragement of Newcastle and Ethin persuaded Rupert to delay any attack until the next day. As the Royalist troops broke ranks for their supper, Leven ordered his men to attack at or shortly after 7:30 p.m, just as a thunderstorm broke out over the moor. It was a surprise attack by the Parliamentarians, and it proved effective. Despite having 10,000 fewer troops than the Parliamentarians, the outcome for the Royalists was by no means a foregone conclusion. But after initial success on the left and in the centre, Rupert was defeated in dramatic fashion. After a confused fight lasting 2 hours, the Parliamentarian cavalry under Oliver Cromwell routed the Royalist cavalry from the field, and with Leven's infantry annihilated the remaining Royalists. Cromwell's cavalry cut a vast swathe through their ranks, and it's estimated that 4,000 Royalist soldiers died, compared to a mere 300 Parliamentarians. Along with the Battle of Towton, fought in the same area 183 years earlier, it's scarcely any wonder that it left a substantial scar on the region. It was perhaps an unexpected victory. Northern England was a Royalist stronghold. They had the advantage in numbers and local support, except perhaps in parts of Lancashire and the West Riding of Yorkshire. On Marston Moor, the fate of York and the control of the north was decided, and the Royalist Northern Army was effectively destroyed. Rupert and the Royalist cavalry also lost their reputation as an invincible force, something which is known to have weighed heavy on his mind afterwards. The Scottish contribution to the parliamentarian victory was considerable, but the accounts of the battle by the English suggest it was mainly the work of the Eastern Association forces under Cromwell. This started the process of making his name as a great commander and indicated how a well-equipped, trained and committed parliamentarian army could win the war. The open fields and moorland are now fully enclosed, but they remain agricultural. The villages of Longmast and Tockwith have expanded a little, but have only had a minimal impact on the battlefield. Marston is thus one of the better preserved of our major battlefields. The road between the two villages runs across the centre of the battlefield, as it did in 1644. Beside Marston village, a minor road leads north along the eastern edge of the former moor, and it's almost certainly where Sir Thomas Fairfax made his right-wing cavalry attack at the beginning of the battle. At the western side of the battlefield, a footpath leads up across Bilton Bream, the site of the Rabbit Warren from where Cromwell's cavalry launched their decisive attack. Folks, there is no place quite like Marston Moor. I said it in my little video about the memorial, and I'll say it again. It's an unbelievably eerie place. The stillness of the moor, the wide expanse of the countryside, there's something just really strange about it. Given so many of the troops on both sides were killed in the battle, surely there must be ghosts on the moor. As it turns out, I'm not the only one who thinks that. The Marston Moor battlefield is said to be haunted by the spirits of royalist troops, and possibly even Cromwell himself. Following the conflict, the casualties were buried in mass graves on unconsecrated ground and without ceremony. In the minds of our ancestors, those interred under such conditions cannot gain entry to heaven, and their restless spirits are condemned to walk the earth forevermore. Reports of ghostly apparitions, particularly groups of men trudging across the area, have been documented here since at least 1932. The old hall near the battlefield is believed to be haunted by Cromwell's ghost, given that he slept there the night before the battle. Two friends driving across Marston Moor one evening in November 1932 observed three men wearing large soft hats, dark plum-coloured cloaks and leggings. They were told their description matches the uniform worn by cavaliers during the Civil War. The figures were walking along the road some 20 to 30 yards in front of the car, but when the vehicle slowed down to pass them, they'd vanished. The countryside surroundings and the roads across Marston Moor are relatively flat, which doesn't provide much opportunity for concealment. A similar sighting was reported in 1968 by a party of tourists driving along the country lanes around Marston Moor, fruitlessly searching for the road to Wetherby. They noticed what they thought were half a dozen tramps walking along a ditch. Slowing down, the motorists realised the men were wearing 17th century dress, but concluded they were drunken actors before driving on. Only later, when they learnt they'd been driving across the battlefield itself, did details such as the men's begrimed attire and their look of weary exhaustion attain a more sinister significance. That's Longmast, everyone, and what a sombre place it really is. The village is great, but the battlefield is different gravy. If you ever get the chance to visit the battlefield, you should. I've now been twice on TVI Business, and both times it's felt almost otherworldly. It is, without a doubt, one of the most important battle sites in the country, and without it, who knows how the Civil War would have ended. See you tomorrow, everyone. Now, just before I go, remember, this video is part of a huge project to visit every civil parish in England. That's more than 10,000. These routes are pre-planned, and due to time constraints, I can't cover every detail or walk down every street. Please don't complain if this video missed something out. I pronounce names how I choose to. I am very aware that local dialect may vary, and I don't take kindly to criticism about this. You've been warned. It's impossible to know everything too. If this video was terrible, make your own. If you're a regular watcher of The Village Idiot, you're not the only one. If you've got a small business, why not use my videos to advertise it? Leave a comment below if you're interested. And finally, thanks for watching this episode, everybody. Give us a like and a subscribe if you've enjoyed this episode, and share it with your friends and relatives. It all helps to keep this mission going. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as The Village Idiot, and I'm out.